Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Martin.
Well, first of all, thank you, Tony. Thank you to everyone in the GSI for asking us here today. And it's great to hear that you do use the website and it's coming in useful for all your research. And as Tony said, I'm going to today just go through a few of the possibly the basics in terms of printing, cropping, all functionality of the archive. And starting off, obviously, with the archive, just in regards to the background, where it comes from. We are a family business. We have been established for 60 years, and in that time, we've worked with county councils across the country and newspapers across the country to, well, at the start, microfilm was the latest technology. It was how everyone was sourcing or storing, preserving the information. And still today, actually, we produce microfilm for newspapers and libraries up and down the country. But from the 60 years of work and microfilming, we have the master negatives, which in 2001, we started to digitize and create Irish newspaper archives. So that's where the business came from. And as Tony also said, there's three of us involved. So I have my older brother and my smaller brother Philip as well. So it's a family business. My role in the company is digital marketing and sales. I also look after customer care and the website in terms of the user experience. And occasionally I have to look at the digitization of the microfilm itself, because the newspapers that you see on our site come from either microfilm or they come from scanned hard copies. Now, the two different processes have advantages and disadvantages. The advantages using hard copy would be, for example, the quality of those images. The quality is far better, but the time it takes to actually capture the images, the size of the images, would cause possibly issues down the line with the archives in terms of speed. Whereas scanning from microfilm, digitization is far faster, but you lose in quality. But you gain in speed and quantity that you can put online. So there are actually the two areas where the newspapers that you see on the site come from and how we capture them. In terms of the content we have, I'm delighted to say that the newspaper archive is constantly growing. We're very lucky and in a very fortunate position that through our work with county councils and with some very progressive county councils and county librarians, that they look to preserve the newspapers and they look to find ways of getting that information out so people can research and get because a lot of the information is stored in storage areas which is inaccessible, and therefore librarians want obviously to get the information out there to the people, to get them into the libraries, not only online to our server. So at the moment we have 9 million plus images. We're spanning 280 years of Irish history, and through that we have national newspapers, regional newspapers, and we also have titles from north and south. So we really have a very large span in terms of years of the archive. Here I've just broken down what you can expect in terms of centuries from the archives. Obviously starting off at 1700, there we have the Belfast newsletter, 1738, and we are hoping to expand on the earlier periods with the likes of the Limerick Chronicle, for example. The Limerick Chronicle newspaper and some other regional newspapers that may date back, but clearly 1700 is going back a long way, and therefore there's very few newspapers, if any, that where you still exist that we can capture. Coming up to 1750, you have the likes of the Freeman's Journal coming into the fold of the archives, obviously the Belfast newsletter there as well. And then as we come up, you can obviously see a much larger body of newspapers, more content, more titles, starting to happen 18th, 19th century. So the archives, as I say, constantly growing, and in that our span is growing as well. In terms of our publications, we have 71 newspapers from the south of the country and 7 newspapers from the north of Ireland. We do rely on, in terms of the archive and how we get to titles, not alone do we work with the libraries, we also work with the newspapers. Therefore, we also are very sure to make sure we have copyright covered. And we work with the newspapers when the proprietors the papers are still published. We work with the proprietors to make sure we have the rights to put the newspapers online. And we're starting to get a larger span of Northern Irish newspapers, which is great. We're looking after the Belfast Telegraph, which is soon coming online as well, which will be another great title to add to the archives. We have nearly every single county covered, not all, but we are getting there. Clare, we're lacking we have no newspaper from Clare, unfortunately, or Roscommon at this time. But if Roscommon is a county of interest to yourselves, you can access the newspapers in a digital format from within the library, but unfortunately not on our archive. So we have the majority of the country and the counties covered. 9 national daily newspapers obviously does cover the entire country, so we can say we have a national reach of newspapers. We break our archive down into 3 different categories. We have your national newspapers, you have your regional newspapers, and out of print titles. In terms of the content, I'm just going to display a list of the type of content, if you haven't used it before, what you could expect to see on the archive. And please note that we have this online, obviously, and you can go through to our website, irishnewspaperarchives.com, and there's a newspaper publication list which you can see all the titles and available years on the archive itself. So the national dailies, we have the Belfast newsletter. As I say, soon joining us is the Belfast Telegraph. Some great news actually to announce tonight as well, is that the evening press and the Sunday press will soon be available. And these are some major titles we're asked for all the time, which up until 2 weeks ago we couldn't say we had. So we now be able to tell people they'll soon be coming online with ourselves. In terms of the newspapers, then obviously the Irish Examiner, Cork Examiner, Irish Examiner, Irish Independent, and some very familiar titles there. The Evening Herald went online last year from 1891 all the way up to current date. So that was a fantastic newspaper, another addition to the actual archives. Our regional newspapers. The regional newspapers are thankfully the backbone of the company. And it was through the regional newspapers that the company actually first started, with the likes of the Anglo-Celt and the Connacht Tribune coming on. And from there, pace started to gather within the newspaper community, and more titles came on board. So it was really driven by not only our family business, but also behind us were a lot of the newspaper proprietors who were eager to try and get the information out there from a historical point of view and also preservation. So through the archive, as you can see, there's many titles there. Connacht Telegraph, the Derry Journal, the Donegal Democrat. There's a long list, so I won't go through all of them right now, but you'll be able to see it online yourselves. Out of print titles, we've a great collection of out of print titles. You will probably note, if you are on the archives, that some counties are covered more than other counties. One in particular is Kerry. We have over 19 titles from Kerry. The reason for that is the library themselves came on board, a very progressive librarian down there came on board with ourselves and wished to have the entire archive digitised. So if you see Kerry and you're wondering why is there so many titles represented there, it's simply because the archives came from the actual county library. So we have more and more newspapers coming on board from the libraries themselves, and we hope to be expanding the archives soon. So the content's available online, you can see lists. Why would you use newspapers? Well, newspapers have a flood of information. I don't know how many words are on per page. We have 9 million pages online, but why would you use them in genealogy? Newspapers in all their various formats and missions offer crucial source of information on political, social, economic and cultural events and trends. By using a newspaper, your subject, whether you can find direct information on the subject you're studying or not, you will find information on how they lived, how they possibly worked, their environment, what they were eating. You'll be able to find a larger picture on their actual lifestyles than just say specific information on the subject if you cannot find specific information on the subject. By their very nature, newspapers give a view of historical events that include both the narrative reporting and often colourful editorial commentary. And you'll see that very much so in the petty sessions in some of the earlier newspapers, where they're very descriptive in the people they're actually discussing. They don't just give you names, they'll go into the actual characteristics of the person and go into great detail there, as in point 3. The style of reporting during the early 19th century often carried details such as names, addresses, actual physical descriptions of those involved in the articles and note. So therefore making newspapers an invaluable source for information for family historians. Newspapers can help to give us a broader understanding of the environment in which events began and happened. So therefore, once again, whether the subject you're studying, because newspapers can be quite frustrating, we're going to go through how you might be able to get information from them, whether you can find direct information on your subject, you'll certainly be able to find information on how that subject or person or relative lived at the time. best practice in finding newspapers and researching newspapers. Although we've been able to digitize the newspapers and put it online and therefore bring the newspapers into your living rooms or away from the National Library into online format, we still aren't able to give you the exact information that you're looking for at a given time without some, shall we say, groundwork done before you get to the archive. And what I mean by that is it's very important to have written out as much information as you can. I mean, the basics, obviously, the name, the surname, who they are married to, their occupation, where they lived, do you know where they worked, do you know where they were working, and the approximate dates. I mean, dates are crucially important. But the more information you have before you come to the archive, the more information you can take away from the archive. To come to the archive and enter in a simple name is going to return to you an incredible amount of information, and you're not going to be able to sit there all night, no matter how many hours, how many cups of tea you have. It's not going to happen. So the most important thing is get as much information as you can about the person or the event or whichever it may be before you come, and write down some keywords. Write down a list of keywords associated with the, I keep saying subject, but it could be your person or the event, anything that can help. For an example, I have just selected a very common name. I've selected Patrick Collins. I know that Patrick Collins died between 1923 and 1926. I don't really know much more than that. I don't know where, I just have this name, I have a date. Now, to search Patrick Collins in our archives is going to return tens of thousands of results. And we are going to execute that search now. So I've just highlighted here, Patrick Collins, typed straight off the bat. No further information is put in here, all titles, date range left open, and you'll see 10,000 results returned back to you. Well, the fact is actually, it's a lot more than that. We reduce that because we're trying to speed up the archive. If we were to actually let that archive run, you could be up to 70, 80,000 results, but you can't go through all those results. So we reduce that to try to make the archive return results faster. Now, what we need to do is be able to narrow it down on that. So, if we take Patrick Collins, and by looking at the functionality of the website that we have here, I entered in a search there for Patrick Collins, and we got an information flood, as I pointed out, 10,000 results. If I use the functions here, broken down on the right-hand side, so I must say, actually, I take the phone calls in the office quite often from customers, and when I get an opportunity, I'll discuss with them how they're using the archive. And quite often, when I do actually get to talk to people, I find that sometimes they haven't looked at what's available around them, the functionalities that's there, or used it. And when I discuss with them how to use it, they quickly realise, well, hang on, this is how I can narrow my research and speed up the time that I can get my results back. So by using the Boolean search functions, near and or not, we are able to add some information into our search key, because all we know is a date, all we know is a name. So by using this, we're going to enter Patrick Collins near obituaries. And by doing that, we are looking specifically for Patrick Collins, obviously, in obituaries. But when we do the enter the search, and we narrow the date between 1923 to 1926, further reducing what we're searching over. We've left all the titles free, so we're going to search over every single title because we don't know where he was from or where he passed away. If we execute the search, we're going to get 0 results. Now, that's not great, obviously. That's not what we're looking for. We noticed over 10,000 results of Patrick Collins. We know the man died, but we're getting nothing back. So, we need to look at our search query and see, can we change that to get any results back for this person. So rather than entering maybe obituaries, we need to look at maybe obituary, deaths, writing down a list of it might not be a death, it might be another word that you may be able to associate with the individual. But you can change it with your keyword searches, you can add it into the near function with the name, and then we can maybe try it again. So Patrick Collins, near deaths. And we do have results. We have 69. So now we've gone from 10,000 to 0 back to 69. And 69 is still an awful lot of results, and yes, you may have to go through the 69 results if you can't narrow it down further. But we're going to see, can we? At the moment, when we're entering Patrick Collins, it's 2 separate words. And the default Boolean search in most search engines is actually a proximity search. You're asking it to find Patrick Collins or Patrick near Collins. You're not asking it to find Patrick Collins or Andrew Martin. So what we need to do is narrow that down. By putting it in quotations, you'll see here, quotations Patrick Collins, quotations near deaths. We're specifically saying we want only Patrick Collins near the word deaths. So that really what it's saying is, you can see the second section here is, our initial search was Patrick Collins, was Patrick within 3 words, Collins within 3 words, deaths. So now what we've done, by putting in the quotations, we've said Patrick Collins within 3 word deaths. So we're now narrowing it down further. So if we try to do that search now again, we've gone from 69 down to 6 results. So now we've narrowed down the information we have to search through. We've narrowed it down. Now, if you only have 6 results, you can easily go through that, and hopefully the information is there that you wanted. Now, in saying that, the most important thing and critical thing is your keywords of lists, because their 6 results here may not be what you want, or might not be the information you're looking for. Therefore, you need to start adding in the other words to try and bring back different results. Once we find the results that we want, we have 2 options for viewing those results. We have 1, the article view, and we have number 2, the full page view. The article view is, as it says, it opens the article from the newspaper without opening the full page. However, if we do that, we're also confronted with a number of tools to try and make our lives a little bit easier. Save to my collection. I'm going to speak about that in a bit more detail. I don't know if anyone uses that here. I give a word of advice. Basically what it is, it's a quick and easy way for saving information like articles or pages to a browser section of the archive. So it makes it easier for you to save the information into your browser, okay, which is online. However, I'm going to speak about a much better way of saving the information so you can actually keep it on your hard drive. And as Tony mentioned, printing articles as well. There's a printing articles function here. These are the buttons I'm talking about up here. That's my Save My Collection and Print Article. One of the issues of printing the article using the print function is that it prints what it sees here, okay? And the quality might not be good enough. The size of the image might not be good enough. As Tony said, you can wait a half an hour, sometimes it prints out a blob of ink, and that's not exactly what you're looking for. So when we're looking at Save to My Collection, Print Article, or Email Link, what you're trying to do there with these 2 things is, 1, you're trying to save your information. Print Article is obviously trying to print your information, and emailing a link, you're trying to share your information. What I actually do when using the archive is I actually don't use any of these functions whatsoever. I use the Save to Drive link. What this does, it saves down the actual newspaper or article in a PDF format. What that means is that, first of all, the image quality is far improved. You also be able to store it on your hard drive on your computer, so you'll be able to have it once, if you're subscribed or not subscribed, you're keeping the information for yourself, so you can use it again. And you can email it easily by attaching it to an email rather than sending a link which brings people back to the article. So by doing this, you're actually being able to save, you're able to print easier, share it easier, and also you're storing it for future use. Whereas the Save to My Collection, I don't know if anyone's used that here, but what it does, it saves it into your browser. So what that means is that on your specific computer, if I press Save My Collection, my article about Patrick Collins is going to be saved into my browser history. So if I go and visit Tony, for example, and I log into my website, my username and passwords, the information in my collection will not follow me. It'll be in the browser of the PC. That's why I always use Save to Drive. It's a much easier, much more reliable system of printing, sharing, and saving the material. At the end, I can take any questions on any of these items I'm talking about now today. Increasing the font size. Newspapers, obviously depending on the print, can be very small and difficult to see. By using the font size, you can bring the article up closer to you or make it smaller from you. So that might be a handier link for some of the older newspapers. If that is the article that you want, and you are happy to say that that is the information we'll be looking for, we can use the page button to open up the full page and bring us back to the actual newspaper, to the edition itself. So So you can go directly from the article into the newspaper page itself if you need to see more content around an article. So that can be quite handy to use as well. Another item that very few people use from talking with our customers is the article view. This comes in handy with this particular search because when I search for Patrick Collins, we have 6 results. So we don't have 60 results, we have 6 results. So that means I can easily use this just to skip from one article to the next article. So you're going from the results page. So we'll be able to see all 6 results through the articles, and then we can decide which one we want. We can open the page, or we can save it, and then we can print from the saved material. So that's viewing it and using the toolbars in the actual article view. The other option, as discussed, when you have your search results, is to open up a full page view. When you open the page to begin with, it renders. It takes a second or so, but it renders. And the article you were looking for is highlighted in red. That's to capture your attention and bring your eyes down because you're dealing with a very small image, very small screen, very big page. So you'll see the red area here. Now that only lasts for a few seconds, shall we say, so you get familiar to where it is in the page. But your words are highlighted in yellow. So if you ever do a search and you can't see what you're looking for, if you zoom on the page, you will see a yellow highlighted of the actual searched words. So you keep that in mind when you're looking for the page, because sometimes it can be tricky enough when you search a page, you produce a full newspaper page, you can't see what you're looking for, it is there and it is highlighted, so you can go in and find it. With the article highlighted in red. We also have navigate between pages. It is what it says, obviously we can skip through the newspaper, we can browse back and front from one page to the next. We have zoom functions, the zooming in on the articles, zooming directly in on the articles. You can also actually, if you hover your mouse over an actual newspaper page, you can double click it, it'll also bring up the article. But you can also have the zoom function, zoom in and out. Thumbnail view. Now, what I do, I find is extremely handy actually. The thumbnail view will open up the full edition of that newspaper. And where that might come in very handy is, especially if we deal with the Evening Herald, for example, even in the earlier periods, it had lovely big headlines. So you're actually able to see thumbnails of that newspaper, see the headlines, or if you're looking for a particular picture, well, it's the easiest way to find it. So the thumbnail view can be quite handy, I find, you know. The printing function, as I mentioned previously, the print function, it is there and it can print. If I was to print that right now, what I'm going to get is the full page, that full page printed on an A4 piece of paper. Now, that is not really going to be what I want. So, what I always advise is always use the save function. It's a little disk, it's right there. You press that button, a dialog box opens up and asks you which page do you wish to save. And you select the page, it saves it down to your hard drive PDF format. It means, as I said previously, the image quality is far better, so you'll be able to read it better. Once it's in Adobe or PDF format, you'll find it far easier to clip the information from it and store the information and share the information. So I always use the save function whenever in my line of work, whenever I'm looking for information to keep down from the internet. I would think the most important part about the save function actually is the quality, because when you do bring it down in PDF, when you're printing, when you're viewing, when you're reading, you're getting a much clearer picture. Whereas if you print directly from here, you're getting what they call dots per inch. You're getting 72 dots per inch off that screen, and it might not be as clear as it could be for you. So always go for the save function. The cropping image page. This is also another little fella that's very underused. As we've mentioned, the newspaper pages can be quite large. What we want might be quite small. We may want to save just that small section, as I say. We don't want to save the whole page. So by using the cropping image section, we're able to take down particular pieces, images, articles, whatever it might be, whatever corner of that page you want, you're able to just take that specific section and save it down. So the advantages are, if I use the crop function, it opens the image in a PDF format. Once you use the crop function, I'll show you now, it's this little fella here. If I was to press the crop button here, it'll open up a page with a little white square, which I can manipulate over to whatever size I want. And then once it's over the size I want, I simply press the crop selection and it automatically opens that up in a PDF format on your computer. From there, you get a better image quality, store it in your local drive, and also through the Adobe is nearly on every single computer that's produced, really, to be honest with you. But through that, you'll also have further actions you can take with the image, other than saving, but on enhancing the image and printing. So the cropping function and the saving function, if you're to take anything away from today, I think are the most useful tools, especially when it comes to printing, especially when it comes to sharing the information, saving the information. Or, for example, you've subscribed for a month and you don't wish to subscribe much longer than that. If you save the material down, you can always come back to it at a later stage and read it again. That is what I have prepared on the functionality end of the website and the searching end of the website. I'm obviously going to take questions afterwards, so you'll be able to ask any questions you like, or maybe we can do some live demonstrations. But in terms of the archive as well, just some news on the actual archive. We are in the middle of a redevelopment at the moment. It's going to take 4.5 months, approximately, and that redevelopment is going to be not just a branding exercise, but also hopefully giving the users more information about the newspapers, about the content we have, about missing content, about relevancy of content. And we started doing some changes to the website leading up to that. And one of the changes we've made is actually on the newspaper pages themselves. So we've created for each newspaper, it's actually a work in progress, we have 81 titles, I think we have 45 pages created so far. We've created an origins page which gives you the background of the information, background of the newspaper, and also orientation of the newspaper. Because quite often we'll be reading a newspaper from, say, the early 1800s and we wouldn't know what their leaning is, their political affiliation. And through this page you'll be able to tell all of that, and also obviously their location within it. Not a problem to most of us here, but we have a lot of international customers, so they like to see where the actual newspaper was published from. So we're working on trying to improve the site from that perspective, the user experience. I just thought I'd take the opportunity, I don't know if any of you ever heard of the Irish Famine Eviction project. It's a phenomenal project spearheaded by Dr. Kieran Riley. What it is doing, it is using newspapers to find new eviction sites throughout the country, and through the newspapers putting names on the people who are actually evicted, because quite often we hear numbers and figures of how many people are evicted during the famine times, but we don't know anything about these people, whereas Dr. Kieran Riley has set about the task of actually finding out who they are and how many real numbers from what parts of the country were evicted, and they're using the archives at the moment to do that. And one of the fascinating things is that so much of the information that goes into famine research actually comes from newspapers. It comes from archives like our own, thank God. So that's a project you might want to keep an eye on. It's quite heavily on Twitter, so there also is a Twitter handle there, Famine Eviction, at famineeviction.com. So that brings to the end my presentation on the archives. However, as I say, I am open to any questions, and if I can't answer your questions here today, I certainly will get the answers and send them on to you. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're going to, okay, here you go.
And that's the first question. Have you done a YouTube video on how to search?
Yes, we have, actually. Now, I'm going to go to live, so I'm just going to come out of here.
Yeah.
And I should say the actual college here is a member of the website, because the archive is actually free to every single school nationwide. We went live with the SchoolNet 2 years ago on a temporary basis, but this year the pilot scheme is over and they've made it available to every school, primary and secondary in the country, so we're pretty delighted about that. Just on the archives, when you actually log in, this is the first page you see. This is it, this is the home page, the intro page. It can be found, if you were in a different section page, you can be found here on the intro page. And in here you'll find some various silent videos. Quite often people are opening up and thinking there's something wrong with their actual volume, when there isn't. It's actually a silent tutorial, which will show you some of the basics of using the archives, searching the archives, the titles there, viewing your results, and various different things. Now, it is there, but there also is something else pointed. We're at the end of the phone. We're at the end of email. We can be contacted by Facebook, by Twitter, by any way. So if there's ever a question, no matter how big or small, ring or phone or email, it doesn't really matter to us, so someone always there to answer. You know?
I think I've seen
there. I would say on the YouTube videos we do need to update them. There's no doubt about it.
Because those Boolean things are tricky enough, like if you don't know that. But I think it would benefit somebody to
actually demonstrate.
Sorry?
To demonstrate.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And you know, it's something that would probably get you more people using.
Yes.
using the product better.
I will openly admit when I do take calls to the office, I do try to talk to anyone coming through about the archives and how they can use it, and the large majority of people they don't even know that they're there. Although it's, you know, you would, because I see it every day, so sometimes when you see something every day you think, well, naturally everyone else sees
well,
it.
it really is searching and printing is really the key.
Yes.
And I mean,
yes.
as you illustrated there for the Patrick Collins,
Yeah.
you can narrow it down to 6 by putting in the relevant
This
criteria,
yes,
and then how to print and stuff like that. It makes it far more joyful than
it's an
some of the
absolute
hours you spend.
Yeah, well, the newspapers, by their nature, have so much information in it that, you know, to enter a name, and especially a typical Irish name, Patrick Collins, you're going to get the information flood. So, I suppose that knowing how to navigate the site and use the site better would certainly help people, and we must improve on that, and it is something we're trying to do. So part of this redevelopment isn't just, should we say, as I say, it's not just a rebranding exercise, it's actually trying to redevelop the website so that it's more user-friendly, it's more accessible, and it's more intuitive for people.
Okay, I want to open the floor up now. Seamus.
Thanks very much, Andrews. What you're offering there, in fact, I do a little family or a local history research in Wexford for a local history magazine.
Yes.
And what you offer has transformed local history. You know, you can't exaggerate it, how it has changed things by the search engine. I met you up in Belfast early on.
I remember.
And yeah, I was mentioning at the time, it can get a little bit cumbersome at times. I think you've already had the experience of going in one day and finding a particular piece of information, going in the following day and the damn thing's not there, you can't find it any longer or something, you know. And you were telling me that at the time, is this still the situation? That's unlikely to be transformed over the near future. You mentioned the term open heart surgery will be needed to do it. And
yes.
I admire you for admitting that, rather than telling us all going to be changed in 5 years' time, it's going to be brilliant and everything. And that's still the case. We have to just live with what's there at the moment. And
well, the news is, okay, where we come in slightly different to other archives is that the archive, the software that powers the site wasn't created by ourselves. It wasn't, we brought in Olive Software Technology. Now, mind you, Olive Software Technology, they're one of the largest archiving solutions company in the world, and they use in the British Library and use various different libraries across the world. However, they power this archive. And the thing is our archive is growing at such a rate. It's 9 million images. I mean, the next archive on a national scale that Olive are dealing with would be the Israeli archive. And they're at the moment at 2.5 million images. So I think what's happening here is our content is pushing the boundaries of what's possible with the current scenario with Olive. Now, things have actually changed since we spoke last, Seamus, as in Olive have been purchased by another outfit who are promising changes, and we are hoping those changes are going to filter down through to maybe the speed of the archive. Because I think the speed is the number one complaint we would get is, you know, well, it's great, it's easy to use, but you know, as someone said, you get used to this feeling. Someone said, unfortunately, admitting it here is more of a joke, that they just go off and make a cup of tea and come back when it returns the results. And although it's not that bad, speed is an issue, and we are aware of it, and we are trying to improve it. And you may or may not have noticed, but over the last few months, the site's performance has been improved upon. So average searches, some searches I should say, were going through 23 seconds, 30 seconds, and we have reduced that down to below 10 seconds for majority of searches. So it's an ongoing thing. However, we are hoping with the change of ownership of the Olive software that it will filter down and hopefully increase the speed of our service, because it is something we dearly love to do. I hope that answers it.
yeah,
Okay, so Tom next, sorry.
I've been looking at some names which are a bit difficult. Well, the obvious ones are the names like Green, for example, is very, because you know everything up to Green. One that came up the other day is Good, spelled Goode.
Yes.
Now, is there any way to search for that without getting
all the rest of it? By default, the engine brings back the results. Say, imagine I was to type in sign, for example, SIGN, it will bring back any variation of that word.
Yes.
So it is a default in there. You should be able to, if we could actually just do a trial here now and see if it actually worked. You should be able to put in a quotation and see if it brings back the exact match to it.
I tried the
Quotations.
and I tried good with an E and not
Yeah.
good. And that
No,
was-
no, I know, and that probably gave you back no results.
Okay, nothing.
Gave me no results. But what I can do is, I mean, the quotations where I would have started with, and then exact match. And then after that, I will have a look at it for you and see what we can do with it. So that's the answer. I will look at that and see what we can do.
Okay, that's good news. And could I see hands showing for anybody who wants to ask a question? Maura?
Yeah, unfortunately my surname is Flood.
Same.
Yeah, how do I deal with that?
Well-
Getting articles about flooding.
Well, you see, the only thing, unfortunately, you could do is obviously involve the first name and then use the quotation. So Gina Flood or Andrew, Flood. So that would be the best way to deal with that.
Sorry, gentleman behind it.
Unfortunately, my surname is Claire, so I have a similar I was just wondering, I am a beginner and I thought this was very useful lecture, but I was just wondering, is there anything that you can buy in the way of handbooks and things which would enable you to set up a digital framework on a hard disk for downloading quickly whatever you want if you're going to a library and you haven't much time on the computer? Or I'm not asking you about the specifics, but the general things like keyword suggestions for different themes, like a thesaurus or a journal template or an advanced template for writing down for whatever you want to get, the sort of things you'll need. Are there any of these sort of aids available?
Well, I mean, the honest answer is right now from our own platform, no, not from ourselves. And if you're asking about third-party software, I'm not really familiar, and therefore I wouldn't know the answer to say no from that. But from our platform, no, unfortunately not. The archive is a fantastic archive, and delighted to hear Seamus say kind words he mentioned about it. But the one thing, as I said, it can bring, before the archive exists, before online digital newspapers existed, if we go back to the days of microfilm, it was sitting down in the libraries and trawling through that microfilm. So it has advanced things leaps and bounds. However, what it hasn't done what it cannot do is it cannot provide you with the information unless you have the information to look for that information. Now, what I mean by that is the keyword list, the research behind the subject that you want to find. With that information, and once armed with that, you can go to the archive and you have a far greater chance of getting information back from the information you put in. So you do have to bring a bit of work to it, and there is the unfortunate thing, and the unfortunate thing is, no matter how fantastic, no matter how much money someone throws at it, the OCR, or optical character recognition, that picks up all these fine little words and makes it researchable for us, is simply not ever going to be 100%. And on some pages, I mean, the best you can even hope for is 50%, 60%. And that goes across the board, not our site, but every website. It's the limitations of the technology due to the quality of the images. And therefore, if the computer can't see it, it's not going to return it. So therefore, you're going to have to get your hands dirty, roll the sleeves up and browse those pages sometimes,
Okay, sorry, Sarah, you were...
I'm particularly interested in Tipperary, and you don't have an awful lot.
No, we
and
don't.
I wonder, is there any chance of it coming on board?
There is more than a lot of a chance, because we're doing the Tipperary Star at the moment. And so we're also, just actually on that, in 2 weeks' time, we're releasing the Westmeath Independent from 1882 to current date. We're releasing the Offaly Independent from 1920 to current date. I mentioned earlier, we're digitising furiously to Telegraph, Belfast Telegraph. And it only goes from the 1970s to current. There was a bomb, unfortunately, in the premises. They lost all their archives, and the only place that has the originals is the Linen Hall Library, which we're not able to get information from there at the moment. But we also have the Evening Press and Sunday Press coming along online, and the earlier periods of Limerick Chronicle and the Tipperary Star as well, and the Nationalist as well is coming online.
There's the lady here.
Nationalist. So that's coming online.
I'd be a happy person.
Lady there, sorry.
The thorny question of copyright.
Yes.
Where do you stand on that? What can we use it for?
Oh, well, what we say is, if it's been used for commercial purposes, because it's been created with the proprietors of the newspapers or the media groups, we have to sign a commercial license with anyone wishing to use it. For example, recently we've had a whole host of documentaries being created. One most notably the Hurling documentary, I'm sure many of you saw, was a great success. They needed to use archive information. In order for them to do it, they had to contact us to sign a commercial license to be able to get permission from us, from the newspaper, to use the material. However, if you're using it for educational purposes, if you're using it for non-profit non-profit profiteering situation, you don't need a commercial license to pay anything to us. It's nice when we get an acknowledgement where the information came from, but otherwise, no. Once it's not commercially used, you should be fine.
So is copyright?
Yeah, you can use the archives, but it's not commercial.
When does it die off, like, for instance?
Well, true, if it's used from our archives, it doesn't die off because it's digitally reproduced, so we own the digital object. So that digital object is now ours. Well, the newspapers are ours because we enter an agreement with them. In terms of the copyright of the material, it is a sticky subject because if you go back to the copyright, I think it's anything prior to 1975, I could be held wrong about that, is open, and as far as I'm aware, in terms of 1975, yeah, I need to double check that, but I don't think it goes back that far, so.
Sorry, Seamus, you're being...
When you have your image and you click save,
yes,
and you say it goes onto the PDF into your hard disk. Now, can you save it onto a memory stick?
yes, you can. And actually, what I do is I actually there's some fantastic free to use apps, or not apps, but software. Google Drive, OneDrive. I mean, all of the big operators are pushing this, and it means you can bring your information everywhere. So rather than saving it down to your local hard drive of your computer, you're sitting here. You can save it in, you can set this up for free, by the way, to the cloud or to Google Drive, and you save it to Google Drive. It means that you can access that from anywhere and you're not tied down to your computer.
Yeah, but what the point is, if you're in an area where it's public access to the archive and you want to see something and you want to save it, can you put in a memory stick and save it and walk away with it?
That would be down to the individual libraries, but the answer is, in terms of our service, yes is the answer. But some individual libraries, I haven't, they may stop you from doing things like that.
Yes, some of them won't allow you to copy anything to a memory stick or to a hard drive.
Yeah.
The National Library made one of those, I think.
Yeah, which is a bit
But
of
if you pay a subscription at home, you can most definitely put it onto your hard drive or something. Anybody else or questions? Sorry.
Is the Kings County Chronicle on your list up to do?
It isn't. It is not. Well, I should say, when I say it isn't, we actually did it. But unfortunately, we digitized it for our customer, but it came from British Library microfilm, which infringed copyright, and therefore we had to take it down, unfortunately. So not yet. But if we can get our hands on the hard copy, we will be making it available. But at the moment, it's not in the schedule.
The National Library.
Yeah, well, the National Library, we at the moment we're not digitizing anything for them at the moment.
That was my favourite.
Because exactly, we live in hope.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
Be really bold here. The software that you say you bought a license of this software.
All of software technologies, yes.
Is that Oracle based or what?
No, it's actually based. It's Linux based.
Oh, Linux. Okay, right.
Yeah.
And who you say? So who bought that recently?
Well, it's our what company bought it? I actually don't know the name of it. It's an American company. The good news about it is I watched the promotional video and the usual hopefully good news that comes with that. But from looking at past purchases of this American firm, they have improved the companies they bought. They didn't just buy them on and sell them off. They actually bought them, improved them, and keep them running.
There is some software out there that will do amazing things.
Yes.
That's the only thing.
Viridian software comes to mind, which is just outstanding. It's incredible. But at the moment, we're Olive. The great thing about the software, the Olive software, is, and we do get the feedback quite a lot, is it is so easy to use in comparison to other softwares, which might be extremely sophisticated and have a lot of functionality, but maybe bedazzle people and they can't actually get their heads around how to use that functionality. So, but we're hoping that speed is the main killer for us at the moment. We're trying to improve that.
Very good. So, yeah.
Can I just offer a compliment?
Oh.
I've gone through my family's business progress, in the ad section of your archives. they were hiring carriages in the 1890s. They moved to sell, I saw the ads for them selling the horses and the carriages in the 1900s. They moved into bicycles and advertising bicycles in the 1900s early. And then they moved into motor business.
Really,
So
the
it
progression.
just was a progress all the way.
Yeah,
and it was all
fantastic.
through ads. They were selling off the stuff that they weren't getting out of and moving in. The new ads were coming up in with the new stuff. So well done.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
Very good. Anybody else? One more?
Quick one. Can you say why you don't have clear papers?
Well, there's a simple answer. We work with the newspapers, and many of the newspapers have been very open to working with us. But unfortunately, at the moment, and releasing the archive, we need to get the permission of the newspaper before we do anything. And we have been in talks with a number of the papers there in Clare, but at the moment they just haven't given us the go ahead or come on board. But we're always batting away and hoping for the best, and I'm sure it'll change in time. But nothing at the moment.
Okay, going once, going twice. Round of applause.